Cinema, Italy, costume, fashion, women. Isabelle, looking at the history of cinema, how has costume helped define women's and female characters?
I think it pretty shaped the imaginary of women, bodies, makeup, hairs, way of moving, and of course archetypes during all these years since cinema became what we imagine. And that was from the 30s, more or less. And it was the age of divas, because the first archetype was the diva archetype. And that was pretty much bounded to the idea that women were also the trigger point for catastrophes in men's life, you know. But they were powerful women, though. Always seeing through men's eyes, as directors were, of course, they were men, and there still are, most of them, men. And we see at the Oscars, as you know, there are not many women involved into direction prizes. And so the imaginary of women has been shaped by cinema, directed by men. In Italy, we also translated from divas with the neorealism to mother courage, you know. So this tragic figure, really a realistic narrative of women left alone in poverty, dealing with all the problems of, trying to work, trying to feed their children, trying to defend men that sometimes were persecuted by the fascist regime, for instance, and defending their role into society in a very violent and passionate way sometimes. If we think about Rome Open City and Anna Magnani, that really represent this character, this universal character that was, pictured in memory of the rest of the world as the Italian women for a long time, together with, of course, Sofia Loren and Gina Lollobrigida, and later that with Antonioni's relationship with women, that was, of course, a more tormented, difficult in a way, but also because society was really changing, and the role of people that had an artistic heritage, that had an intellectual culture and criticism towards society, their idea of women was represented by Monica Vitti.
Tell me about these dresses. Tell me how about the role of costumes has shaped these characters, these stereotypes sometimes.
Anna Magnani's black dress, poor black dress, not fashionable, not fancy, and a really, really poor one, left in the street, dying. And then when we go through the Ciociara dresses, and the black dress of the scene of the raping, that was so strong and so powerful, and so really telling about a hidden story. And then we pass in Monica Vitti's eclipses or all the trilogy, you know, of Antonioni. And so this little dress in the 60s shape, so quite rigid, but not tight, you know, loose a little bit, and white pearls, but at the same time, lit messy hair. And this makeup that was really graphic with just eyeliner. This was so graphic, and so it sensitized really what women at the age were you know, were struggling to find a new form of communication, a new form of also to dress themselves.
Tell me about the Italian costume word and the connection also with the emerging fashion after the war and later.
So we cannot start answering this question without remembering the Fontana sisters, of course. There were three sisters, who started working when they were like 10 years old, so really, really young. They were three different personality, totally different personality. So their job was, you know, each one of them had his role in the company. When they became so famous, one moment was their encounter with Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn was shooting Roman holidays, and Edith Head was the costume designer who helped to shape that innocent, fresh, so elegant, silhouette that, of course, she kept. And so she met the Fontana sister when she was in Rome shooting that movie, and they started to work with her for a small period, because later on she met Hubert de Givenchy, as we all know. And so this collaboration, of course, was stopped.
As a costume designer with a new project, what is your creative process when you have a few female characters you have to dress up for a movie? How does it work? Or better, how do you work?
Of course, I read the scripts, then I analyze everything about this person. I want to know what perfume she uses, what kind of past that we don't see in the movie, that we won't see. I want to know how she walks, how she stands, how she sits down, and why she's making some choices. What kind of relationship she has with her body, and of course, with her body and with her wardrobe. Because costumes are dresses, are really piece of clothing that become costume when we do the costume fitting. In that precise moment, that is a big work on different things with different people involved. Not only me, it's the actress in this case, it's the director, and this period, it's also showrunners involved in what they think they
how
do.
To approach the project. So do you draw? Do you collect pieces?
I draw when I can do it. If I have the time, if I have the money. So I draw when it's necessary. When it's otherwise, I don't draw. But if I draw, or if I not, in both cases, I do mood boards. But these mood boards are really huge, and they have to be connected to production design. Okay, because it's not only, when we read the script, it's not only wardrobe, also how this location would be in terms of light, in terms of furniture, in terms of atmosphere. So I really, not only me, I mean, it's the method everyone uses. I want a picture of everything, because things needs to be believed by a lot of people.
And what about the body of the actresses?
Sometimes I need to change them if it's necessary. I mean, history of costume is also the history of how fashion intervened in bodies to change them, and also maybe sometimes even torturing women, because aesthetics was enemy sometimes of women well-being, because you need sometimes to add something wrong to wardrobes. I give an example. I worked into a movie many years ago. It was one of my first ones. We were doing a fitting of a French actress, and her character was a girl, really shy, really tormented, and really confused about life, about what she want to do and everything. And the costume designer decided to make her skirts all wrong. They were asymmetrical, but a little bit. So you wouldn't really see in the big picture, but perceive that something was running from her in an unpredictable way. That was really interesting. And also, all her jackets and small pullovers, they were all a little bit too tight, or a little bit too loose, a little bit too long, or a little bit too short. Every piece. And it was such an interesting job to do. And I kept this lesson, and I still do if it's necessary. I want to do it sometimes that no one else is, apart from me and the actress, would notice it. So we are not going to research for beauty. Sometimes we do ugly things, wrong things, mistakes that are not really, but are intentional mistakes. And this is, for me, is fascinating because it's the narrative that wins.
Are there Italian fashion brands that you think are working well with costume designers and with the cinema?
Yes, we have Prada. So she's a woman, so she knows the power of representing women through the screen. She really is passionate, I think. She has a history. She collaborated with Catherine Martin for The Big Gatsby, for instance. Also, not only with Prada brand, but also with Miu Miu. And she also produces, in a way, some shortcuts with Miu Miu, with the talks they do together with young directors of... They have a deep dialogue on cinema. So Prada, but also Dolce & Gabbana. They worked on. I think they worked together in a way, always with Catherine Martin, because some costume designers are even because of the vision and because of the project they work in, they manage to work better with fashion, better in terms of more often, and in a very smooth way. And also in Romeo and Juliet, Leonardo DiCaprio, Leo was wearing a Prada suit. At the same time, Juliet, she was wearing a Dolce & Gabbana white dress for the secret wedding scene. It's something that costume designer know how to. The good ones, of course, the big ones. They know how to use contemporary fashion into period movies with a very clever attitude. So a charming ones also. And there are my favorite projects.
What's next for costume design in defining powerful female characters?
We need to free I think we need to free women's body from stereotypes that fashion has its boast, especially in the last few years. We need to free from this, compelling thinness, but also compelling beauty in terms of youth.